I don't know if I can say it with a straight face, or be and not over dramatic. My name is Helen Tselikidis, also known as Mimi, also known as Chi-Chi, and Kiki. I just found out that Kiki is well, for lack of a better word, vagina in I think in the Philippines. What's your name? Son of Kiki. See, now I'm trying to be funny, so you're wrong.
I know.
Making you laugh, and I'm trying to be funny.
All right, my name is Lazarus Tselikidis, and I guess that's it. So, if I ever buy another battery, I'm gonna make sure I tell my wife. She'll remember. Yeah. My wife's memory is bad as mine, so hopefully my kid got his shit together this week. It is. And the design came out how it never looks like. You know, it looks totally different. It's nothing too special, but to me it's like, you know, I like it because, you know, it doesn't look like what it's supposed to. It looks absolutely magnificent in my opinion. But if somebody at a festival something, be like, oh, okay, yeah, that looks okay, but you know. Yeah. You know, to me it's like I like my ugly work because it's just, you know, to me it's a one of a kind.
The reason why tie-dye, my niece came to visit, and she brought me a tie-dye, and I did not want to wear a tie-dye shirt. Oh my God! And we were living in New York, and so to not hurt her feelings, I wore the tie-dye shirt. And as I'm walking down the street, everyone that passes by gives me a smile, and. Now, they may have been saying, oh, look at that old fart in that tie-dye.
You weren't old then.
No, I was 42, or 40, no,
30.
35.
30s.
Oh my God. Well, I thought I was old. And,
thought I was old.
And from that moment I was hooked. Because it had just, you know, it made people like me. They liked me, but they didn't know me. But these people, you know, I mean, it was, I was hooked from that moment on. Plus, then when tie-dyeing is very addictive. You know, you do it and then you can't wait to do it again, you know.
You can't wait to see what you did.
Yeah, no, you wake up in the morning just wanting to wash out what you had made the day before. So it was wonderful.
No, no. Well, you know, tie-dye is all about breaking the rules. It's about finding your niche, you know. It's trying to make yourself different, you know, what's going to separate you from everybody else. Like right now in tie-dye, a lot of people are doing the same thing. Granted, yeah, you know, we do the spiral, but all the other designs that we do are, you know, unique to my parents, you know. So I get to at least say that to a certain extent, you know.
Well, I think he's the only one that's ever come up with fireballs in space.
Well, no. Now I've seen shirts similar to that. Now,
Yeah, but
so.
no, but he was first.
No, yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I've never seen the mask before either. You know, I mean, you know, I've seen it now due to the internet.
Yeah, but see, I think
But,
that
you know.
the mask, in a sense, is a natural. If you tie-dye for enough years, you are going to come up with
No,
a
yeah.
mask without ever having seen a mask.
Well, no, but if that was true, then you know, I mean, some of the,
Well,
the
you
people
know,
who,
the sunny rainbow. Sunny rainbow, which is the easiest thing on earth. I had a friend who was a vendor, and he had a little girl who was mysteriously ill in the hospital, and she had a fever, and they didn't know what was wrong with her. So I gave him one of these shirts just because I thought it was a cheering up shirt. So I gave him one of these shirts to give to her. And the next week when I saw him, he said, that was a miracle shirt. He says, we put it on her, she smiled. The next day she was out of the hospital and her fever was gone and she was fine. So for years I sold this shirt as the healing shirt. And then I did a craft show at Barnard College, and there was this 7-year-old freshman. So she was a little prodigy, and she came up to me. She says, "You have the rainbow all wrong. It should be that the turquoise is down here." And so then, because this little girl told me what it was supposed to be, I started making it her way. And so for years and years and years and years, I sold it as a healing shirt. And then we had the store in Chincoteague one summer, and this woman who was a shaman came in, and she said, "You know, if you just put the rainbow a little different, it would be a healing shirt." So now it's back to its original non-prodigy sense. So it was a healing shirt.
I like the fact that you can't, you can control some of it and then you can't control a lot of it. It's like some of the great shirts that we make, the dye just travels unexpectedly. Maybe too much orange gets in the middle of a shirt, and then you mix a little bit of purple to make that brown, but it gives it a nice little brown. I just like that. I like that process.
You love the serendipity of it.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I like. I like the fact that yes, this piece came out and I had no control over if the dye was going to stay, because I've had pieces where dye would go outside the outlines. I would have, the colors would mix, and it's like, no, this should have been gray, that should have been green, but but still though, the color forming part of it was very nice, and it was like, gave it its own character. It's like that was not something that I can control. I might not be crazy about it, but after looking at a piece, it's like, okay, yeah, no, that actually, that complements it well, Yeah, it wasn't an imaginary body.
I love you, son.
I know you do. Oh boy. At least we're not yelling at each other, because
Well, do we ever yell at
Oh
each
yeah,
other?
I can be an asshole. But it was nice though. I saw,
but I
we
mean,
were on the
very rarely
business.
ever
Well,
fight.
no, it's like I remember Chris said something to me because he saw me talking to you one day, and it's like, dude, I run a business with my mother. When we get into a heated discussion about the business, she's no longer my mother. She's Helen. And that's how it is.
Yeah, I'd like for you to treat me like your mother. That started the business.
I'm not. Hey, look. You're the matriarch. I give you a lot of respect. Oh,
Matriarch, yeah, it's so good to be the matriarch.
Hey, well, look, I've sacrificed enough for this business to be a part of it. No, to have my say so. No, you are. You kidding? It's like when you die, we're gonna lose some customers. We lost some customers when Dad died. We're gonna lose some customers.
They're going to. You should.
I'm not like you.
Say,
I'm not like that. I'm not cool. I'm the shut-in kid who's just been tie-dyeing for 14 years of his life. Would rather be with his family than go out with his friends. I mean,
No, you see, when I die, you should put a sign up there saying the talker is dead.
The talker is dead. Come on.
And then people will start.
I know, but people love that about you.
Yeah, but
I mean, some people they come and it's like, oh, your mom's not here. It's like, yeah, sorry to disappoint you.
You don't ever get anybody come. Oh, finally I can shop.
No, but but when I say if you're not careful, my mom will talk off your ear. They're like, yeah, that's very true. But they say it in a loving way, so they're not like talking you down. People love your personality.
Well, I know.
I mean, you're a genuine person that actually cares about people.
Yes.
I mean, when you ask somebody, "How's your day?" you actually care. You actually want to hear if their day, if their day was bad, you actually want to hear it.
And give them advice.
And then give them advice that is probably not needed.
Where is it? Right here. Dirty Little Lima.
Dirty Little Lima?
Lima, Ohio. It's the worst. That's what I call it.
Where did you grab the pin from?
Slima.
The armpit of just to the bottom.
Well,
That's what I call it, the bottom.
transfer to UVA.
Yeah, the best part about this job is the people. The people, and then the people.
It's always exciting, always interesting. I always have a good. When nobody comes into the store, it's not the money, of course. That is.
No, the money plays a part.
But I'm upset that I didn't get to talk somebody's ear off. Really.
For her, it's very true too.
But I try to find out who the person is. I'm interested in people.
No, you generally care about people.
No.
Uh-oh.
I find, I realize my motto. Everyone that walks through that door is an adventure. They are. Because everyone is different. Everyone is,
If you say so.
No, but it's true. It's true. Well, you know that. Everybody is lovely.
I wouldn't say an adventure, but no. But everybody who comes in there is lovely, except for 1%. But
I think it's less than 1%.
Oh man, she's
Oh my
just
God.
falling apart. All right. Well, just leave her alone,
There you
dude.
go,
She doesn't
there
want
you
to
go.
talk to you. She doesn't want to talk to you. No means no.
That's so cute.
Spread the
I have
word.
whiskers.
This is your pulpit, so to speak.
Oh, God.
No, but that's how, and again, I mean, to me, that's the most precious thing we have is our relations with other people and exchanging information. That's what human beings are made to do.
I mean, you really think the best of people. That's the thing.
I do. I do. I love people. I love humans.
No, yeah.
I do. I love humans. I love humans.
I'm from
Humans.
planet Zanzibar.
But I mean, it's just very interesting about how people have an idea of what happiness is, what wealth is, and it's really not what the constant bombardment of advertising that we see. I mean, we see it everywhere. From the Coke machines right out there to the commercials on the radio or on the television or the billboards. I mean, when you think about it, all those young girls who are trying to be as skinny as possible because all the models in the magazine are, starving themselves and just drinking water and maybe eating a lemon wedge for their protein. So, all right, how am I gonna do this? All right.
Oh my God.
This is the really this might not work. No, that's not gonna.
And actually, all the 25 years, we haven't had a whole lot of money. It's
No,
always
we've
been a
done good,
struggle.
though. No,
Well, we've
no, it's been a struggle.
survived. We've survived.
Yeah.
But that's how we started. And then my husband joined because I could no longer open and close my hands because tie-dye is actually a man's job. It's not really a lot of women do it, and a lot of women do it very well. Men do it better.
We got the brute strength.
Yeah, you have the brute strength. You have to have upper body strength. All the really great tie-dyers are men.
Come on, going a little bit. Yeah, no, that's not happening. No way.
Like, you know, I'm the dyer in the family, and it's like, you know, I'd love for my son to see his great grandmother. This is what he did. I actually have one of, you know, my father, he died, I don't know, maybe, maybe about like 60 things in his career, because he was a folder, you know, that was his expertise. And I actually have one of his original mandalas, you know, because a lot of my parents' designs were my father's creation, and this was before a lot of people were doing it. And so, you know, so I have that. Then I have some of my really early work, you know, that I actually just recently found due to cleaning my studio, or I guess our studio. And, you know, and so, you know, it's going to be a nice transition. Plus, I had him dye a piece when he was 2 years old. And, you know, it was a, I fold. He's okay.
He breaks
know.
all the rules.
You know, his first piece was dumb luck. You know, and that's what tie-dye is sometimes. It's just dumb luck. But, you know, it's like, it was a piece that I folded for him, and he dyed, and it's just this gorgeous piece. And, you know.
You have that?
Yeah. You know, it's in his room. You know.
It's in his room?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, you know, plus I got some stuff that she dyed. You know, I had her make him a sunny rainbow tapestry. So he's going to have a whole collection of the family's thing, and hopefully he'll join the business if he goes to college.
Oh, but still, you know,
but most likely this business will probably die with me, because, you know, I don't think my son's going to tie that. You know, it's, you know, I would love for him to, but, you know, I know what type of life, you know, it's a scary
Your son
thing.
is finally going to put tie-dye and quantum physics together where they belong.
Well, no, tie-dye and quantum physics is already tied. You know, I'm a firm believer that the energy that you put into whatever you're making, it comes out that much better. You know, it's hard for me to make a piece when I'm really upset, you know, like a piece like that over there. You know, it's like, you know, I have to be in a good mood. If I'm not in a good mood, it's, you know, my mood's going to show through the piece, like the Death of an Angel piece. It looks great, but you can definitely tell my mood.
So, because you produce so much, then that must mean that you're always in a good mood?
No, not all the time. I mean, you know, there's some stuff where it's mindless stuff, you know.
But are you basically...
Well, it's not mindless, but, you know, but when I go to dye a garment, if I'm in a bad mood, you know, I pop on the music and it helps my mood, and, you know, I focus on what I'm doing. I put my, you know, whatever good energy that I might have into me, I put it into what I make. You know, I make sure that, and I've been a firm believer of that, and I love it. I tell that to people, and they look at me like I'm high as a kite. You know, it's like, yeah, sure, dude. You know, but, you know, I made some pieces where I was in a bad mood where they came out good. You know, it was very interesting. But, you know, I mean, I try to really be in a good mood when I die. Yeah, I know, that's always been a morbid fascination. My mother would be like, all right, I'm gonna go die now, and, you know, I'd always chuckle, me, you know, like a morbid person. Yeah, you're gonna go die, you know, go down to the basement and die, Ma. Good luck. Hope it's a clean die area.
Well, one day
it's gonna happen.
One day
all right, so I'm gonna go die, and then, you know,
and
2
you're
days
gonna
later,
think that I'm dying, and I'm actually dying.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, it works out both ways, so.
Yes, that's very interesting, actually. La